common purpose that we have since the beginning, that is really, a very, very powerful driving force. You could say that cooperation is something like a continuous negotiation of what the we means. It's not only about talent in the sense of knowledge, it's also about how people can synchronize, how they can adjust.
So you need probably a lot of structure to make space missions work, but you also need freedom to innovate. And I imagine that this must be also quite a challenge.
Of course, in a control center, it's about controlling, and of course, it's a bit like in sports. If you sit in a rowing boat, you need someone who navigates you, and they might be louder in doing so that everybody knows what they have to do. But behind that, there's also a lot of soft, as you call it, skill, a lot of communication, and a lot of compromising, navigating also through potentially conflictuous situations.
Hello and welcome to Corporate Culture, your podcast about cooperation and conflict at work. My name is Paul Emzev, and in this episode I spoke with Anna Günster. Anna is an HR professional and psychologist at the European Space Agency. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about space exploration are astronauts and spaceships. However, as I learned from Anna, ESA does not only recruit astronauts. As a trained psychologist with many years of work experience at the agency, Anna has deep insights about the many different facets of human cooperation within such an extraordinary international organization. And yes, she also knows astronauts. During our conversation, we talked about Anna's perspectives on human cooperation, what makes for successful teamwork, and what the biggest challenges are when working in such an international organization as ESA. Anna also shared what other industries can learn from cooperation in space, the psychological needs behind successful cooperation, and the future of leadership. I was deeply impressed by the capacity of the people at ESA to solve such complicated challenges within complex, partly unpredictable environments. How leaders have to provide both technical expertise and emotional intelligence, and how ESA as an organization navigates the ambiguity between freedom of innovation and structure of processes on a daily basis. And now let's get ready for the launch of this conversation. Here's Corporate Culture with Anna Günster.
We are a skills-based organization, and it's very important to be very precise about the skills that are needed and to assess them in a very precise way, to have a good overview of what are the strengths we have on board. But we are also an organization that believes in learning. And so when we first hire someone, it's in the first place for one specific role, but we always also have this longer term focus of what this person would be capable to do. And we like stretch assignments, we like developing people, and we believe in the capacity of people to learn. And in a fast changing environment, which seems to be getting always faster changing, this is of course super important.
Yeah.
The term talent, yes, it might be used in different ways. Sometimes it might be used for high flyers who have particularly high talent in terms of potential. But we mean it also in the way that everybody has a talent, and that our job as HR is also about distributing these talents in the best possible way, so that we have the right strengths in the right posts at the right moment in time.
You know, when I think about aerospace and I mean, I've seen some movies and series about space missions, and you always see this operations center and all the people working there. And to me, it seems like everybody who's working there is super brain, like a mathematician or something like this. And what you rarely see is the leadership qualities behind it. So also the cooperation skills that are obviously also needed. Um, and I'm curious how you look at this. Are most people working at ESA, for example, hired or needed for their, let's say, mathematician capacities, or what role do also these leadership skills play that are maybe more like soft skills compared to the hard skills?
We have some of the brightest minds on board
Hmm.
in the world, and I'm super proud of our expert colleagues who do incredible things. Um, but of course, yeah, leadership is super important, and teamwork is super important because these are large teams. It's not only individual heroes. It can only work if yeah, cooperation, as is the
Hmm.
title of your podcast, if this all goes really well hand in hand, and their leadership plays a super important role. And also for the type of profiles we are looking for and we are building up also, there's this notion of T-shaped profile, which means that someone might have or might originally in their career develop um, depth in one particular professional area, deep knowledge. But then it's also really important to have other method skills and other yeah, cognitive capacities, but also yeah, many other key skills that are also important when roles might change, or also to link the deep knowledge to different environments and different projects
Hmm.
that obviously change. And in certain areas where our experts work, we have a matrix structure, and this matrix structure is also getting more important. And so this means that projects change, and experts are associated to different programs, and there it's even more important that they not only have this very deep technical expertise, but also some other yeah, key skills.
Mm-hmm. I can really imagine that. I've recently reread also about the Apollo 13 mission, where there were all these like technical problems of these three astronauts flying around the moon, and all of these super spontaneous coordinations that happened in the background to, yeah, in the end, save the lives of those three people. And I think in those moments, for me, it also became clear that it's not only the technical knowledge, but also this ability to cooperate spontaneously, to adapt to changing circumstances and these kind of things that you cannot really calculate as a mathematician in advance, but that, yeah, that maybe needs, as you say, maybe more leadership, human cooperation skills. So I can really relate to what
Absolutely.
you're saying.
Yes. Leaders, they need to be the enablers for this type of teamwork, and often also teamwork under pressure, under time pressure, and in very complex projects with complex corporations also. And leaders there, they need to move more and more away from yeah, control towards more enabling and orchestrating cooperation. So their role will be also in the future um, less only directing every single step, and it's more about creating conditions in which collaboration can thrive, especially in middle management, where classically it was about structuring and yeah, controlling the work. think in the future this will also be partially supported by AI.
Hmm.
So also then the requirements for leadership, they might be shifting towards more empathy and cultural skills, emotional intelligence, and this will be most likely even more critical in the future. So at the same time, managers, of course, they need very strong cognitive capabilities so that they have a big picture view, that they see things, that they listen and are good communicators, but also critical thinking and a good balance between critical thinking and solution orientation. That's definitely important.
Hmm.
So, and in a way, maybe shifting away from, yeah, authoritative leadership more to sense making. So those people who are working in the teams, they understand themselves how to connect and also how to navigate ambiguity and how they can co-create.
Mm. Uh, that makes really sense to me. Um, and still, I still have this picture in my head of these operation centers, like the things you always see about space missions in movies, and sometimes they also call it like command or control centers. So you have all these keywords of commanding operations, controlling processes, and again, what you see there in the movies often is a very strict hierarchy of people taking decisions of what to do, and a huge line of people executing perfectly in the best case what the superior tells them to do, basically. And I'm wondering, um, how do you explain this shift that you were just describing, to say we go a bit away from this controlling, commanding, and more towards these values that you just mentioned about empathy, about sensing. Um, how come that we generally, but especially at ESA, you start working differently compared to, let's say, 50 years ago?
That's a good question. Yeah, the answer is complex.
Yeah.
Um, Of course, in a control center, it's about controlling. And of course, it's a bit like in sports, huh? If you sit in a rowing boat, you need someone who navigates you, and they might be louder in doing so, so that everybody
Hmm.
knows what they have to do. The roads are very clear, and you just follow this. And there are, of course, areas, especially under time pressure and with very, very critical missions like this, where it works like that. So everybody knows exactly what they have to do. The structures are clear. And oftentimes also the way careers are made is that it's senior experts who go in leaderships. That's how they are recognized. Um, and how they are trusted and accepted through the senior leadership. And this will still exist, of course, if you are talking about a control center.
Hmm.
Um, but this is one small part of the agency overall. And this is one small situation that you see on screen in one particular situation. But behind that, there's a huge and complex teamwork with many other moments where it's not so time critical and where these same leaders, they also need to integrate the views and perspectives of many, many stakeholders and listen also to, for example, critical voices, because if they wouldn't, the missions might fail. So what might look yeah, and it is a hero-like activity.
Hmm.
But behind that, there's also a lot of soft, as you call it, skill. A lot of communication and a lot of compromising, navigating also through potentially conflictious situations. So it's not black and white, but it's a whole bunch of different capabilities are also needed.
And you know, while I'm listening to you, I also think about this factor of diversity because I think that's also what you mentioned in a way to say you need different voices and also different voices to be heard. Um, I know a lot of studies showing that having diverse teams is, as you say, maybe reducing um, the risk for wrong decisions, increasing productivity, and so on. Would you confirm that also at the European Space Agency, that this is also the case in your environment of work?
Absolutely, yes. I um, I think diversity as such, it is of ethical value to include everyone,
Hmm.
but in certain environments, in certain sectors, it's also really an add-on for the quality. And for what we do here, what our context is, diversity is definitely an add-on. And that comes from our very, very specific structure, how at ESA we are governed and how our purpose in the end. And yeah, what we are there for. We are all about diversity, and without diversity, this it wouldn't be the same, and it wouldn't be as good as it is, and as fun as it is.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah. And I know that you're working as a psychologist. Um, Besides this aspect of diversity, are there other things that you learned, especially at ESA, about human cooperation? I know that you worked at the German Aerospace Center in Cologne before, in Germany, for many years.
Mhm.
So you have a lot of experience in aerospace contexts. But is there something specific that you say, something that you learned specifically at ESA?
Yes, absolutely. Working at ESA has taught me so much about human cooperation, things that I hadn't seen or realized like that before. So if you look at the situation, by far what is first surprising is that ESA is a bit like a village. Many people, they stay from hire to retire. And this creates a very deeply connected and yeah, almost familiar community. So
Hmm.
socially, this means also there's a profound respect between colleagues. And even though, of course, there are moments of a healthy competition, it's very constructive. So ISA is a bit like a family that does create stability and trust. And yeah, some people, they stay over decades. What you also see when you come in is how political everything is. It's a deeply political environment. And I see that also as a strength. So there are diverse national voices that shape our direction. And yeah, here this was completely new to me. And I think it's also unique the way that the national interests of the member states shape ESA. And what is then, and maybe you wouldn't expect that to hear from me as a psychologist, what's really a key lesson is the power of our legal foundation, which is the ESA Convention. It's now more than 50 years old, and it's still a crystal clear framework that guides us. So this is where it's stated what is our vision, our purpose, and how in the end we cooperate. So at its core, there's a dual purpose of ESA to advance space science and space technology for peaceful purposes, and also to ensure that these space activities that they deliver tangible benefits for Europe and for the citizens. And through our ESA Council, they basically decide about the programs and how budgets are spent. And it's all about balancing national interests with the collective European goals. And this means also that in the same ratio as member states sponsor certain activities, they are expecting a so-called geo return. So this means how projects are for the good of their own country. So for cooperation, it's very specific here at ESA that what we do is voluntary but structured. That is very multilateral but very coordinated also. And it's a competition between the states, but in a very collaborative way. So there's a lot of diversity and a lot of dialogue that is necessary to agree on the common goals, the type of projects, and the direction in which we are going. And I think what's particularly strong is the element of the shared purpose that go beyond the interests of only one nation. And this is also different from other space agencies or other similar intergovernmental organizations. And maybe you can see already how complex this environment is with our different stakeholders, the way we are governed, but also the technical complexity of our projects.
Yeah, I find this super impressive, but also super inspirational. Because now I think about many organizations I work with or organizations I know, also smaller ones, who often struggle with these questions of purpose, of vision, of shared values. So very often there's this big challenge of seeing value somewhere written on the wall or with big posters, and then to really make people live those values, live those purposes. And even in small organizations, which are much less complex, I see that often as a challenge, that people really believe in that they live that.
Yeah, only humans too. And we also
Yeah.
have moments of change where we need to realign on what are the values, what are the expectations towards management. We have a lot of diversity between our different directorates and the different activities. So of course there are many different views, but this common purpose that we have since the beginning, that is really, a very, very powerful driving force.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Um, do you have for yourself some clear picture of what successful cooperation means? So I'm sure you can quantify it, and you can, for example, say a certain space mission was successful, so the cooperation was good or not so good. Um, from a psychological perspective, what is your understanding of successful or good cooperation? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mm. Yeah, I think here my reasoning has also shifted since I work for ESA.
Mm,
Before I would probably have thought more of personality attributes or like something like pro-social behavior, but it's so much more. And well, you could say that cooperation is something like a continuous negotiation of what the we means and how you can agree about a common goal. Um, and it's not only about talent in the sense of knowledge, it's also about how people can synchronize, how they can adjust, and also how they can trust each other under pressure. And it's about getting things done together efficiently. So it's very important that there's clarity and very good communication, so people can function together with speed. It's also ownership is super important for cooperation, which you can really clearly see in such a complex environment. Ownership or accountability, I like the term ownership better.
mhm.
it's also important that there's no endless consensus seeking, but that at some point it's clear within the structures what are the roles and who does what, and that people agree. So cooperation, it's also about resonance within the system. About becoming aligned toward a shared movement, a shared goal. And it's about shifting behaviors to seeing it as a quality of relationships. In the end, I think it's all about relationships, about networks. And maybe classically, when you think of organigrams and also ESA organigrams, you would think that cooperation works really well when goals are cascaded, when everything works well vertically. But there again, we are just too complex. It's also so important to look to what's happening next to you, what your peers are doing, or what neighboring teams are working on. In ESA, cooperation is not only a soft skill, it's also a precision instrument. It's really, it's super key to, basically it's the foundation of everything we do. It's not just important, it's what we need to make almost impossible technical excellence possible.
Yeah. And the more I listen to you, the more I realize that probably you never have these either or situations. So you have this need for deep technical knowledge, but you also have the need of soft leadership skills. You say that, of course, you have hierarchies and you have moments where somebody has to take decisions, but you also need this freedom to let people, sense things, work across silos, connecting the dots, not only on the organigram, but also in maybe invisible ways or in ways that you don't see maybe on paper. So for me, it becomes really clear that probably you see some ambiguity of, for example, freedom on one side and structure on the other side, and that kind of both is needed um, within such a work. So you need probably a lot of structure to make space missions work, but you also need freedom to innovate. And I imagine that this must be also quite a challenge, no, to put like these two things together, which are, in my understanding, still under tension. So they are not obviously so compatible, right?
That's very well observed or well imagined, and exactly that is true. Um, we we have all of this. We breed innovation, and we have these highly agile teams. But of course, we are also we have an administration system, and we have hierarchies, and all of this we need also, and we need structures, and we need a lot of compliance tools, because what we are working towards, it's high risk area. So a lot of the engineering, it's around minimizing risk. And if you go for that, it's a bit like the opposite of speed and accepting minimal risks. But we have all of this in parallel. It's a bit like living in a place where you have an overlap of uh, I don't know, East and West, antique and modern, and
Mhm.
we incorporate all of that, but it has all its reasons structurally and for the domain we are operating in.
Mm.
And at the same time, we are also changing very fast as an organization that is constantly reinventing how we go about things, and we also have to go with the times.
Mhm. Yeah. I also like this distinction between complicated problems and complex problems. And for me, like complicated problems are ones that you can, if you have the ability, you can calculate, you can plan them, you can engineer them. Like probably I would say some of the challenges you have at ESA are probably very complicated but plannable, quantifiable, calculatable problems. Um, but you do that within a complex environment. And for me, a complex problem is one where you cannot control all the dots anymore. So things are happening, like you know better than me as a psychologist, in groups. People will do things that you cannot fully control, and there will be, interferences and interdependencies that you cannot fully control. And this, for me, is actually such an interesting observation that you have this highly complicated problems, like engineer problems, for example, within a complex environment that you cannot fully control. And that makes it for me extremely fascinating how you're actually able to go to space within all those challenges.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly, that's again well observed. I think that over the next years and decades, AI will also again really change
Mhm.
um, how we go about these things that are just complicated, not complex. But yeah, it's both of that. Huh? It's the technical solutions, but in a very complex environment that really shows how yeah specific the executive roles are also in our area, and yeah how really difficult it is. I mean, it's also most exciting if it's complex, but getting it, you might not be able to get it 100% right. And if stakeholders and humans are involved, or are the main reason why something might fail, yeah, you better invest time into iterations, into communication, integrating diverse perspectives into shared action. And so it's not about like superficial harmony. It's more like an ongoing dialogue, and tension can be healthy, but these difference they need to be, yeah, expressed constructively.
Mhm.
And this is exactly where our diversity then can be of benefit, huh? Because it's only um, yeah, we wouldn't drive this level of excellence if we wouldn't have all these different voices and yeah, all these perspectives that can be considered there in the solution finding.
Yeah. And besides all those professional roles that you have, so the engineers and the astronauts and the leaders and all these kind of different people, you also have this extra layer of being an international organization, right? So you have international teams working cross borders, I imagine. I know that you have several headquarters. You have the one in Paris, but you also have some other bases within Europe where you work and where colleagues of you are working. Um, is that adding another layer of complexity, or how does that play a role to be working in international teams?
Mhm. Yes, indeed, we have our headquarter here in Paris, and then we have sites all across Europe, like in Frascati next to Rome, in Villanueva de Cañada next to Madrid, in Havel next to Oxford, Darmstadt next to Frankfurt.
Which one is your favorite?
The one that's probably most exciting to, nah, I shouldn't say that, might sound discriminatory. One that is quite interesting to visit is the European Astronaut Center in Cologne, because
Hmm.
there you can watch how the astronauts train. There's a real size model of the ISS, and there's a diving pool and everything.
Wow.
But yeah, our biggest center is ESTEC in the Netherlands, and that's also pretty amazing to visit. But each of them, they have their unique specialties, and they are all interesting and all really
Mhm.
high and yeah technology. I like
Hmm.
it also a lot here in Paris, in our headquarters, where all the political work is done, and where's the seat of Director General and the team of our Director General.
Yeah, and you have quite a good canteen there. I had the chance to visit once. I can recommend. Yeah, yeah. And so
Um,
it means that you are indeed working cross-border all the time, I imagine.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
yes, coming back to the question, um, we we are used to work, of course, cross-border. So in each site, we have all Europe, and we are international teams in each site, and then we have meetings cross-site. We have a lot of virtual cooperation. So we have the same team is usually also spread across different countries and sites. So we have a lot of virtual management. It's always important, of course, to find a good balance between in-person meetings and virtual. And for me it seems so natural. But of course, when I explain ESA to someone from the outside, it might be a bit unusual.
Mhm.
And I would say that for our ESA organizational culture, it's really a mix of all these different influences. It is truly diverse with regard of nationalities, absolutely, and
Mhm.
that's also what's making it a really exciting place to work.
Yeah, yeah. And you probably work in English most of the time, or what is the language that you use?
Yes, most of the time we work in English. We have two official languages, English and French.
Hmm.
So here in Paris, it's partially in French, but most of the meetings and our exchanges and documents, they are in English. And then they are also translated into the official documents. They are also translated into other languages.
Hmm. 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 Um, Switching maybe a bit from the aerospace world, which I find extremely interesting. I could continue talking about this for hours with you. Also because I'm watching an aerospace series at the moment, so I'm really into this. Plus, there was this lunar mission that everybody was following in the news. So aerospace is very present in my head at the moment. But I'm also curious to talk a little bit about possible learnings for other industries. So people who are listening to us who maybe are not working in aerospace, but who are surely very interested in how ESA work and what you're doing at ESA. Do you have any recommendations or maybe just thoughts on what other industries could learn from space missions or maybe from the work of ESA in general?
Well, I guess a great deal. So, first, there's the power of a clear and compelling shared purpose. So,
Mm.
in space missions, the goal is so meaningful and ambitious, and that's what aligns people beyond individual interest. And of course, not every industry can replicate something as fascinating as space. Having a strong and authentic purpose, I think that makes a huge difference. So people commit and collaborate around that. And it's really, having such a shared narrative that can really be a strong asset. Then diversity, we already spoke about it. It's a strength. We have a diversity of disciplines, of cultures, of perspectives. And I think this is a critical resource and could also be interesting for others. Yeah, how well defined roles and interfaces are, I think that's independent of sector. That's always something good to have. And also developing teams in a way so they trust each other under pressure. Sometimes you really have high pressure working situations in space missions. Stakes are high, and teams must feel really safe. Also to speak up if something is not going well or as expected. The way then how we integrate multiple stakeholder interests, I think there we are really
Mm,
strong because we also have so much and long-standing experience with it. We invest a lot of effort in listening, in balancing perspectives, and finding solutions that really go beyond the interest of individual countries or individual colleagues. So the ability to align diverse interests, that's something that where others I think can learn from us or can engage in best practice exchange with us.
I'm sure about that. And I'm also sure that ESA is a probably a unique environment to work in, with a unique purpose, unique missions. How I understand it, you explore both the past and the future. So if I imagine what you're doing in space, you probably look at um, what happened in the past in space, where we are, where we come from. So a bit of exploration about the past, but obviously also an exploration of the future. So where can we go, and where can we maybe live, or where can we travel in the future, and what is out there in general for us. And I would be curious how you look not at the future of the planet or the future of space, but maybe at the future of leadership. So within all of these questions, also about the future that you explore at ESA, um, what are your thoughts about the future of leadership?
That's a good question. So I think leaders, they need to make sure that people feel seen and heard and that they can connect in a larger system. And they need to be more like, enablers of teamwork. They also need to help that to create some sense of belonging. So cooperation is then really possible. Also, in case of conflict, they need to be able to intervene in a productive way. I think what is also something that's super important, that's resilience of managers, especially in such an environment as ours. So they need to have the capacity to yeah upload their batteries and to stay calm.
Mhm,
And also after times of very high effort, um, they need to have developed this capacity to recharge. That's super important.
mhm,
So basically, managers, they need to be enablers and orchestrate cooperation. And I think emotional intelligence is super important also. This
mhm.
means also that culturally they sense where people are different. We see it also in our virtual cooperation. It's important for managers to have good rituals for this cooperation so that teams have structures, but also have spaces and the possibility to align in a productive way.
Yes.
So it's not about um, controlling cooperation. It's about unlocking the potential in people and orchestrating the teamwork.
Yeah. Yeah. So still a lot of work to do, both in space and within ourselves as humans.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, we are all not perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel the sun is coming out, which shows me that our solar system is also still working, which is a good sign. Um, Anna, thank you so much for sharing all those insights with me. It was really fascinating to get a little insight into what you're doing, what ESA is doing. I wish you all the best for yourself, for all the future missions at ESA. And I really look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast. Have a nice sunny day.